It has a great tradition. The department does it, and it goes right back, I think, to the very beginning. You know, it's changed over the years, but it just has good roots.
One of the reasons that I came here is because the instructors are dedicated and committed to helping the students develop personal visions about art making. The department heads that helped to guide the art department through the first 100 years were really very forward-thinking, and they were explorers. They enjoyed bringing different kinds of people together.
1907 is when Calvin Fletcher is hired on as the first probably legitimate art instructor.
I got to look at a lot of his paintings and find it very innovative for the time, about 10, 20 years ahead of most that were, producing at that time.
Early on, Calvin Fletcher, he went to New York and he studied with the Ashcan School and brought that back and began to interpret landscape through that type of painting style and introduced that painting style into the valley.
I think our geographic location makes us a little bit unique. Sitting in a mountain valley, a little bit isolated. We are within an hour and 20 minutes of an international airport, yet we're up here in the mountains, and it's a beautiful environment that's inspiring.
The early art department was totally connected to the landscape. I think that really is what drove their own personal visions.
With the faculty that first group hired, they had the same philosophy. Let's teach a good, strong, fundamentally sound program.
And so we brought on young faculty that could do that. You don't think about USU being at the head of the avant-garde, in Utah, but for the time, as he was department head, that was really what was going on.
One of the things that Fletcher did and was very good at was he would bring exhibits into town.
Visiting artists was a very, very significant thing to have happen, where we're isolated up here to bring people in from both coasts who are at the head of the most current significant movements that were going on in art was a major development. And I think it kind of established a tradition that continues on.
Photography has a long history at Utah State. They taught a photography course in 1902. And Reuben Reynolds was one of the guys that continued that history.
He did a lot of painting in his early years, but really his specialty became photography.
Harry Reynolds was a marvelous photographer and as an excellent craftsman that he was. And he could do it all.
He had kind of a little bit of a causticness about him that was quite a delight, and yet it was mostly for the benefit of the person he was talking to. He wanted them to move out of their established kind of patterns and try to think things fresh, and had quite a way of being able to do that.
He was a pioneer in color development of photography. And really in the 40s and the 50s is when color photography came into the mainstream.
H. Reuben Reynolds, who was one of my teachers, retired, and he was teaching all of the art education courses, all the photography courses, and all of the art history courses. And when he retired, they had to hire 3 people.
I think it was hard for him to retire, because after he retired, you'd see him on campus, walking across the quad or in and out of the art buildings.
Everett Thorpe grew up here. He was a native of this valley, grew up in Providence, and was a student of Fletcher's.
I know Calvin was really very impressed with Eb and his ability for art.
Everett Thorpe was still teaching here as I came as a student. And I had a class, from him, and it was a delight. He taught it so well. It was just remarkable.
Somehow Eb thought he was always younger than he really was. And Eb taught till he was 69.
He was painting, a major part of the day every day, and did these huge murals that are all over the valley. It was quite a remarkable individual.
The only woman in the department was Jessie Larson. She was a marvelous teacher.
Jessie Larson taught interior design and textile design.
Jessie was a very interesting person. She was so well disciplined and so exact in everything.
Her students were very important to her. And I've talked to several that, are her alums, and they just have such deep regard for her, and those connections continued through the end of her life.
There was a lot of controversial in the department after Fletcher left and the new teachers came on and so forth. And